roll the dice, see where we land.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for all this.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Mary Pilon is a journalist, filmmaker, and the author of The Monopolists, Obsession, Fury, and the Scandal Behind the World's Favorite Board Game. That's all for this week. And we also have a question and answer show coming up soon. So, what are you curious about? Like, not, do you wonder why do bad things happen to good people, but more, businessy type curiosities. In the past, you've asked everything from why a nice bottle of vino that comes all the way from France can be cheaper than wine made here at home, to, is Canada's federal debt really a worry? So, what's on your mind? Give us a call and let us know. Our number is 1-866-550-COST. That's 1-866-550-2678. Or email costofliving@cbc.ca. That's all for this week. The Cost of Living is based in Calgary. And here's something kind of new. You can now listen to us on YouTube. Just go to the CBC News page, scroll down a bit, and boom, there we are. It's like magic. The internet's wow. The show is produced by Danielle Nerman, Ellis Cho, and Jennifer Keene, with help from Caroline Ferris. Our executive producer is Tracy Johnson. I'm Paul Habersrud. Thanks for listening.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
In 2007, TV network CBS dropped 40 kids in the middle of the New Mexico desert as part of a brand new reality show. And if this sounds like Lord of the Flies to you, it was meant to.
We were going to prove to the world that we could make a better society than adults could.
I'm Josh Gwynn, and I want to know what this wild TV experiment was really about. Split Screen, Kid Nation, a 6-part podcast from CBC. Available now.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb. At noon, it's currently 17 degrees with a few showers in Winnipeg. Showers continuing this afternoon, windy, and a high of 19 today. Changes are coming to improve safety at the intersection of Main and Assiniboine, but the area councillor is raising concerns about how a pilot project to limit traffic is rolling out. CBC's Cameron McLean explains.
The Public Works Committee is set to discuss a proposal for a pilot traffic safety project at Main and Assiniboine today. It calls for eliminating eastbound traffic from Fort to Main to reduce the risk of collisions with vehicles turning right off Assiniboine onto Main. It also calls for limiting left turns from Main to Assiniboine during peak afternoon rush hour. The pilot is being planned at the same time as road renewal work is set to start in the same area. Fort Rouge East Fort Garry Councillor Sherry Rowland says she supports the pilot project, but she wants the city to clarify what work is being done as part of the pilot, while the road renewal work is being done. She also wants the city to consult with residents and businesses in the area about what they want to see. The pilot is expected to start this summer, with a report due to come back to the committee next year. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Students for Justice in Palestine have set up tents and flags at the University of Manitoba to protest the war in Gaza and the treatment of Palestinians. About 40 demonstrators are on a lawn in the middle of the campus. The group has put up signs on the barricades around the quad saying, "Free, free Palestine," and "Shut it down for Palestine." The group says they will be on campus today, tomorrow, and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. They want to meet with university administrators about a number of issues, including freedom for students to support Palestine without punishment. In a statement, the U of M says it is aware of the demands and will respond to them directly. The United Nations is urging the Israeli military to hold back its assault on Rafah. The UN wants Israel to focus on a ceasefire proposal that was accepted yesterday by Hamas. Dominic Velitis reports.
Israeli tanks on patrol on the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing. The United Nations says it's now closed to humanitarian aid. So too is the Kerem Shalom crossing, which was shut after a nearby army base was hit by Hamas rockets on Sunday. Jens Larker is spokesperson for the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs.
The two main arteries for getting aid into Gaza is currently choked off. This morning is one of the darkest in this 7-month-long nightmare.
The UN's Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he's disturbed and distressed by Israel's renewed activity in Rafah.
It's time for the parties to seize the opportunity and secure a deal for the sake of their own people.
He warns Israel that an all-out assault on Rafah would be a strategic mistake, a political calamity, and a humanitarian nightmare. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, London.
Police are investigating a shooting overnight near the home of Toronto rapper Drake. One person suffered serious injuries in one of the most upscale neighborhoods in the country. Thomas Dagg reports.
Toronto police say just after 2 o'clock in the morning, someone shot a security guard outside the gates to Drake's mansion in one of the city's richest neighborhoods. The victim was rushed to hospital in serious condition, while investigators say suspects took off in a vehicle. One man who lives down the street tells CBC News he heard 3 or 4 gunshots and then a car take off. Toronto police say they're aware of the ongoing feud between Drake and California-based rap superstar Kendrick Lamar. But Inspector Paul Krawchuk says he can't comment on a motive for the shooting yet.
Because it's so early, but as we get information, we will share it with you.
Police won't say whether Drake was home at the time, but they do say his team is cooperating with the investigation. Investigators also say they have security video that shows the shooting. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Global Affairs Canada is confirming 6 children have been repatriated to Canada from northeastern Syria. Here is Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly.
I've said many times that I was extremely preoccupied by the children that are in camps in northeast Syria. So because they've gone through extremely difficult times, I won't further comment. I just want their well-being.
The children were being held in a prison camp for ISIS fighters and their families. The children's mother is from Quebec. She has not passed Canada's security clearance requirements. Government officials say protecting the children's privacy is a top priority as they begin their new life in Canada. 3 men accused of murdering Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar are appearing in court in Surrey, BC this hour. The 3 Indian nationals are charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Nijjar was shot and killed last June while leaving a Sikh temple in the city. He is a key organizer of unofficial referendums for an independent Sikh state in India. In 2020, the Indian government designated him a terrorist. The woman at the heart of Donald Trump's hush money trial is on the stand today in New York. Stormy Daniels has been detailing her relationship with the former president. She described a night with Trump in 2006 in a hotel suite. Trump is accused of falsifying business records to cover up a $130,000 payment to Daniels to buy her silence during the 2016 election. He has denied having any sexual encounters with Daniels. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is coming up at 12:30. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Manitoba or download the free CBC News app.
Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining us today for Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, everywhere on the CBC Listen app and on CBC Manitoba's YouTube page. Grocery bills, they've risen dramatically over the past few years. More and more families are having trouble making ends meet, and yet food is still being wasted. Join today's call-in conversation. How do you avoid wasting food? We'll open our phone lines at 12:30 and hear about a food rescue social enterprise some people would like to expand across the province. We'll remember the smiling force behind Benny's restaurant in Brandon, why a posthumous tribute from the Brandon Chamber of Commerce means so much to his family. But we begin today with clearing the communication on affordable housing in Manitoba. The Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association hosts its third annual Manitoba Housing Day gathering today. The association says Housing Day allows leaders in nonprofit housing to meet face-to-face with elected officials. They can speak frankly about what helps and what doesn't. Jeff Fawcett is one of the elected officials attending today's meetings. He is mayor of Brandon, currently driving into Winnipeg. Thank you, sir, for pulling over to speak with us.
Yes, thank you, Janet. Thank you for having me on.
You've attended these Manitoba Housing Day meetings before. How have they been helpful?
Well, just being able to communicate with the organizations, because the people that are there are part of the organizations that actually do the housing. Because, of course, municipalities, we don't do housing. We know what we're needing in our communities, but other organizations do it.
How big an issue is affordable housing in your community, in Brandon?
It's significant. It is quite significant. And you know, I guess a lot of us would just even refer to it as a sustainable housing to a large degree because it needs to be subsidized through the other levels of government. So, but we have between just shelter spaces to transitional housing, which we do have a 24-unit project coming up. But again, federal and provincial funding on that. We lobbied with them to make sure we had it. We have places, because of being a regional hub, you know, there's places even for receiving homes because we have a lot of people from the north and such that'll come down for hospital that have no place to stay. We have people that are getting out of incarceration that have no place to go and stay. So those are the kind of housing we're continuing to work with these community groups to see what can we fill.
You know, you mentioned just a moment ago that as mayor of a municipality, really housing shouldn't be, you're not the people who do that. But there is a push, there certainly has been lately, for the federal government to work directly with municipalities on the need for housing and developing housing, including through its Housing Accelerator Fund. What has your experience been like with that?
Well, it's been good, and we spoke about it last night at our council meeting. You know, one of the items for us is to have it go towards market housing in our downtown. And so there is applicants that are looking at getting that done. So that would help us significantly, a good market housing in our core. And that also is where the municipalities and cities do play a role. We do have some land, not lots of land, we have some land, and we can make that available to make for a more affordable build for projects. And we do have tax incentives or, you know, sort of TIFs, you know, to help make projects work. Like that's the roles the cities can have, other than really being the advocates and champions to help others get things done.
You mentioned your downtown housing initiative. That was actually part of Brandon's strategic plan. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're hoping to see come to life in Brandon's downtown?
Yeah, we can. So we have compiled some land over the last number of years. And now with the assistance of the federal government, actually, and the provincial government has some good new initiatives as well for this exact sort of project. And so applicants have come in looking at large pieces of land where they're looking at sort of about 6-story buildings that would really, really be helpful to bring some more of that density and more of that population downtown. So again, the assistance from the federal and provincial governments makes that happen. We can help supply land.
There are zoning amendments proposed as part of the city's Housing Accelerator Fund as well. What zoning changes would the city require?
You know, the nice thing about Brandon is we've been very progressive with a lot of what we've been doing over the last number of years. So they're not as big a deal as a lot of other places. You know, we will be looking at parking, which is, you know, across the cities across the country, we're looking at parking, probably just bring it down to 1 versus 1.5 spaces for parking. That would make a big deal. And I know that, and again, that's been up to the developer to say, do I want to go to the minimum, which would be 1, or do I want to add more? That would be their choice, and it makes it easier to get some of those going. And then the density things where we have things about where you can build up to 4 units across the city. There's a good piece of our city that's already been that for years and years and years and years. So it isn't as big a change as it might be in other communities. Like we've already been doing density. I'll give you an example. In the last 5 years, 30% of our builds have been infill, which have generally always been between duplex to a fourplex, and sometimes even a little larger. The half funding is looking at fourplex.
Mayor Jeff Fawcett, thank you so much for taking the time to just chat with us today. Enjoy the rest of the Housing Day gatherings.
Yes, thank you very much. And I was listening, and you recognized Ben Hernandez in Brandon, and I'll stay on to hear what you have to say about that.
What do you have to
Wonderful
say
person.
about Ben Hernandez? We're going to have his wife and 2 daughters chatting with me in just a couple of minutes.
An excellent family. Wonderful, wonderful person. You know, he had ties in Winnipeg previously. Absolutely brilliant community guy. Just a top-notch person. And he was in our downtown core working all the time. It was absolutely an exceptional person. You know, you could count on him for anything. Always smiling, always great. Huge community guy, and just loved that guy.
Well, thanks so much for mentioning that. I'm sure the Hernandez family appreciates your words, sir. Thank you. Drive safely.
Yes, you take care.
You
Thank
too.
You. Bye.
That's Jeff Fawcett. He is the mayor of Brandon.
I was born here at the railroad, spent all my life watching train cars go by. All of my dreams were of elsewhere, and I could jump on any train and go by. But I always chose not to leave here, even when watching friends say their goodbyes. 'Cause even alone, something about home, I couldn't leave if I tried. So here I am at the railroad, still spending time watching train cars go by. Chose not to leave here, even when watching friends say their goodbyes. 'Cause even alone, something about home, I couldn't leave if I tried. So here I am at the railroad, still spending time watching train cars go by.
Watching the train cars go by, a lovely song on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Still ahead today on Radio Noon. We have a call-in coming in at 12:30, so about 14 minutes from now. We're going to talk about food security in Manitoba, food waste in Manitoba. What do you do to prevent food waste? It's still happening across the province and across the country, even though the cost of food is so expensive for most of us right now. We're going to talk to Brandon's Food Rescue Grocery Store, the people behind that. They've been redirecting food that would have been wasted for 2.5 years now. That's a model activists would like to see spread to Winnipeg and to other parts of the province. But the social enterprise has just hit a serious snag. We're going to dig into that as we take your thoughts about food waste. Join us for today's call-in conversation after 12:30. On this Tuesday, we've seen some showers falling in Winnipeg. It is a mainly cloudy day. We've got some clearing expected overnight, and we'll get up to a high of 19 degrees in the capital city today. Tomorrow is supposed to be sunny and 21 degrees. Thursday, also mainly sunny and 21. A mix of sun and cloud for our Friday and Saturday. Warm days, 20 on Friday, 24 for Saturday. Sunday looks to be mainly sunny and 20 degrees. Riley Lachuk joins us after the 12:30 news to take a more in-depth look at your provincial forecast. When the Brandon Chamber of Commerce handed out its 2024 Business Achievement Awards over the weekend, one award was accepted by the winner's family. The Lifetime Business Builder Award was awarded to Ben Hernandez, described by the Chamber as a pillar in the community. Sadly, Ben died unexpectedly last fall. Ben's wife and daughters tell me that they've been supporting each other through their loss and speaking jointly about Ben, so they've snuggled up together on the couch today to join us by Zoom. Thank you all for being with us. First of all, our condolences.
Thank you.
You likely didn't hear this, but just a moment ago I was speaking with Jeff Fawcett, Brandon's mayor, and he was thrilled to hear that we were going to be talking about Ben Hernandez, and just said that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, effectively. Very well-respected, well-loved man. Your dad and husband. Debbie, I take it Debbie Hernandez is Ben's wife. That would be Debbie in the middle of the two girls, I'm thinking. What did it mean to you to receive an award from the Brandon Chamber of Commerce in Ben's name?
Well, it was very humbling, and it was very humbling to me, and now I can't even talk. You'll have to cut that part out again. Sorry.
You've got your two biggest supporters right beside you. Natalie Bell is one of Ben's daughters. Natalie, give us a wave.
Yeah.
Who's Natalie? Hi, Natalie. What was it like for you to hear your dad's name called?
It was amazing. I mean, of course, we got a little bit of a heads up beforehand, and it gave us some time to process the award and accepting in that night and the support that we got. It was just unbelievable to see how many lives that my dad has touched and how his legacy will continue to carry on.
Elizabeth Hernandez, thank you for being with us too. Tell us about your dad. What was he like?
He was very spirited, like one of the most positive people I've known, and very creative. He always had a passion for like business and taking care of others. He always wanted to give back to others as well. And I think that's something that our whole family values. And for him to kind of be at the forefront of that is pretty neat. And now to see it in a different light when he's not here anymore and it's us, we're able to see all the things that he's done for our community and further.
Debbie, what kind of support have you received from the city?
A tremendous amount of support. Everybody's so supportive here in Brandon. It's been tough, but everybody's been supportive.
I know Benny's was the restaurant that your dad most recently operated. Um, Natalie, tell us a little bit about Benny's and what people have told you about the place.
Yeah, so I mean, Benny's was open in 2016 by my parents, and it was my dad's dream, and to see him live it out was amazing. And we always joked around that, you know, his big and bright ideas wouldn't have been so successful, but even just seeing the impact and support that we've had, anything he would have done would have been successful. You walked into that place and you knew he was there. You knew you were going to get a good meal cooked. And he definitely would remember things about you, past conversations, stuff about your family. He was just such a special individual, and it made that place incredible, so welcoming. And like he always said, it was the home of comfort food. That was what he wanted to be known for.
Hospitality meant a lot to him, hey, Elizabeth?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he started, like, he came from another country and he started in a restaurant, and hospitality was in his family. They did a bed and breakfast. And when my parents lived in Winnipeg, they were in banquets, and he got a lot of like the personal touches from those experiences. And I really feel that although like he loved the restaurant, although he loved it, the catering part of the restaurant was one of his favorite parts, was be able to get out, talk to the public, donate to golf tournaments, be part of different charity events. So yeah, that's where his passions are and lie. And yeah.
Hey, your dad was born in Colombia. Debbie, how are you feeling? You don't have to talk to us anymore if we've overwhelmed you. But if you'd like to, I'd love to hear about Ben's journey from Colombia. What was it that brought him to Canada?
A better life here in Canada. So he came from a family of 10. So he was about the third youngest. And he actually, the first place he landed in was in Ontario. And that was his first job in a Greek restaurant. And from the Greek restaurant, he had an opportunity to move to Manitoba, and he moved to Winnipeg. And from Winnipeg, he started in the hotel industry. That's where I met him. He was my busboy. He kept on bugging me to go on dates, but that's okay. And then from there on, he had an opportunity to run a restaurant in Brandon, which was called Remington's. And we moved from Winnipeg to Brandon in 2002. And then from then on, he ran Remington for quite a few years. And then when Remington closed in 2016, he decided to go out on his own, and he bought his own restaurant and called it Benny's. And from then on, this is the story.
Benny's, and from that, I mean, that's fantastic, a great business guy. But obviously, there's more to Ben Hernandez, if you're nodding, because to have the Chamber of Commerce give him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and to have the mayor talking months after his death about how missed he is, what is it that he brought to a space?
I guess he was just so accepting of who you are, however you came into his periphery. He would have a conversation about anything and everything. He loved sports, and if you could talk sports with him, he would. He loved talking about family. He loved sharing a good meal with people. He was just so easy to talk to, and he was such a good listener. He made you just feel like you were his friend. And I could tell you the amount of people that we've talked to in this time. They're like, yeah, Ben was my friend. And I'm like, how many friends does this guy have? Because the amount of people he impacted, I didn't realize. I just was like, oh, it's my dad. He's gone. But no, it went way past that, just because he was so personable.
So personable. And now Benny's, this place that people love because they loved him. You were looking for someone to take over. How's that going?
So we have sold the business. We were lucky enough that actually our dad was the one that listed it just prior to his passing. So it made it easy for us. And we got to run the business and see it to the finish line. And
help new owners take over, and they're in the process of continuing to make it their own while keeping it the same. We've been really lucky, and they've been really lucky that the staff have stayed on, and we have quite a few weddings booked still that we'll be around to help out with and show them the ropes, and we'll always be here to support them. And it's still our second home, so I'm sure we'll be there quite frequently as time goes on. But for now, we're just kind of letting them figure out their groove within the restaurant industry here in Brandon.
Well, Natalie Bell, Elizabeth Hernandez, and Debbie Hernandez, I want to thank you so much for sharing your dad's story with us and your husband's story with us. A great guy. I really wish I'd had the chance to meet him.
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it.
Debbie Hernandez and her daughters Elizabeth and Natalie joined us today by Zoom.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
It is 12:27. You're listening to Radio Noon, and just after the 12:30 news, we're going to talk about tackling food insecurity. We'll bring you the latest on what Brandon's food rescue grocery store is facing. We heard a song from Jace Bodner just a moment ago. Right now, here's a little from Sean Taylor Band. This is Rolling Stone.
She's got me feel like a rolling stone. She's a little country but likes to rock and roll. Catch me riding in on a white horse, and I don't talk very much. Around here we wear resist all and Wranglers. The rock and roll's in our blood. Maybe there's you and baby there's me. I tell you one thing that I know. Baby there's you and baby there's me. Yeah, this'll be one hell of a show. Got me feel like a rolling stone. She's a little country but likes to rock and roll. Someone said it but I don't care who. Beautiful woman, yeah, she'll cut you through. Said your old man would keep me at a distance. Said I only bring you down. But I can't hear a single word that you're saying, but they sure look good coming out. Baby, there's you and baby, there's me. And tell you one thing that I know. Baby, there's you and baby, there's me. Yeah, this'll be one hell of a show. It's got me feel like a rolling stone.
That's the Sean Taylor Band with Rolling Stone. Stay with us now because we're about to open the phone lines. Call us with your ideas about food waste. How do you avoid wasting food? The number to call, 204-780-0893. Right now, the time is 12:30.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb. At 12:30, it's currently 14 degrees with a few showers in Winnipeg, showers, and 11 in Brandon, partly cloudy, and 12 in Thompson. About 40 demonstrators are on a lawn in the middle of the University of Manitoba campus. They're protesting the war in Gaza and the treatment of Palestinians. Students for Justice in Palestine have set up tents and flags. The group has put up signs on the barricades around the quad saying, "Free, free Palestine," and "Shut it down for Palestine." The group says they will be on the campus today, tomorrow, and Thursday from 9 in the morning to 11 at night. They want to meet with university administrators about a number of issues, including freedom for students to support Palestine without punishment. U of M says it is aware of the demands and will respond to the group directly.
We know hate never goes away, it only hides.
Joe Biden says anti-Semitism is surging in the U.S. At a Holocaust remembrance ceremony at the Capitol, the president urged Americans to combat hate against Jews. Biden also criticized anti-Semitic incidents at some student protests held at university campuses across the country.
We respect the fundamental right to free speech, to protest peacefully. I understand that's America, but there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind.
For weeks, students have set up encampments to denounce Israel's military campaign in Gaza. They are demanding the academic institutions divest from companies that have links to Israel. Police are investigating a shooting overnight near the home of Toronto rapper Drake.
This is no different than any other investigation, okay? It's maybe more high profile because there's more people here, but we treat it like any other incident. So we'll be using all our resources. Our teams will be doing as much as they can to investigate this, but it'll be no different than any other investigation.
That is Toronto Police Inspector Paul Krawchuk. He says one person was injured in the shooting and is in hospital. While the shooting occurred near Drake's house, police have yet to confirm if the rapper was home at the time. Police say a suspect is believed to have fled the scene in a vehicle. And Winnipeg's Public Works Committee is set to discuss a proposal for a pilot traffic safety project at Main Street and Assiniboine Avenue. It calls for eliminating eastbound traffic from Fort to Main to reduce the risk of collisions with vehicles turning right off Assiniboine onto Main. It also calls for limiting left turns from Main to Assiniboine during peak afternoon rush hour. The pilot is being planned at the same time as road renewal work is set to start in the area. Fort Rouge East Fort Garry Councillor Sherry Rowland says she supports the pilot project. She wants the city to consult with residents and businesses in the area about what they want to see. The pilot is expected to start this summer with a report due to come back to the committee next year. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 1:30. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Josh Crabb with your news headlines. We've got Riley Lachuk with us as well. What's happening in the weather today, Riley?
Well, a wet afternoon ahead, Janet. With some much-needed rain in parts of Manitoba falling once again. But the story, at least here in the Red River Valley so far today, has definitely been the wind and how gusty it's been. Looking right now at some of the current wind speeds. Right now at the airport, 37 is the sustained wind out of the east, gusting to 46. I've seen some gusts over 50 at the airport at times this afternoon. In contrast, though, at the Forks, sustained wind east at 9 this hour. So you really don't have to go far to get some lighter winds. Some gusts over 50 right now into the Interlake Fisher Branch, gusting at 54 at the moment. Gimli and Selkirk St. Andrews both at 40. So we're looking at a little bit of gusty winds, and we're going to see winds continue to gust as we get through the afternoon. East to 30, gusting to 50, even in Winnipeg this afternoon. Into Portage La Prairie, could see some gusts to 60 as we get through the afternoon and the early evening hours. So we are looking at some fairly windy conditions through today, tapering off as we get into the overnight period. To about northeast 15, gusting 30 by the time we hit the morning hours tomorrow. So looking at satellite and radar, we do have sort of a more widespread, a more consistent area of rain still in southwestern Manitoba, areas like Brandon through the Melita region, looking at a few showers through the moment right now in the Brandon region, Neepawa, Minnedosa, seeing some of that. Even a few scattered showers into the Parkland region, Dauphin through St. Rose, Gilbert Plains, seeing a few scattered showers. And we have seen some of that start here in the Winnipeg region as well, where we have seen the showers sort of start here, at least in the downtown, in the last half hour or so. And right now, across the city and points outside, at least, seeing just some scattered showers still, at least here in the downtown and even into the extreme southern part of the city, seeing a few showers right now. That will taper off as we get through the afternoon. Not before we see a little bit more rain, though, at least here in the Winnipeg region. Tapering off south to north, interestingly, as we get through the afternoon today. So in Winnipeg, we'll start to see that rain tapering off through the later evening tonight into the overnight period. Mainly cloudy overnight, clearing toward a mainly sunny morning for most of us in Manitoba, and generally looking at a mainly sunny sky through the day on Wednesday into Thursday. Could see a few showers passing through northern Manitoba through the midday portion of Thursday. In terms of rain to come, few millimeters, I'm saying more like 2 to 5 for the Red River Valley. Could see some pockets of higher accumulation back to the west. Temperatures at the moment still a little bit below seasonal for this time of the year. So 14 in Winnipeg, 11 in Brandon. We're looking at a high today in Winnipeg of 19 degrees with those on and off showers. Dauphin to 18 today and a mainly sunny 14 in Thompson. And Janet, after that, temperatures, at least for the next 5 days in Winnipeg, in the 20s. So we've got 21s for Wednesday, Thursday, 20 for Friday, 24 for Saturday, and 20 for Sunday.
My goodness, in May. Thank you so much, Riley.
No problem.
Riley Lachuk will be back for Up to Speed between between 3 and 6. That that was me thinking. That's what it sounds like when I think. Something kind of goes bodoing. He will be back to bring us the updated forecast between 3 and 6 p.m. And then he will join us for CBC Winnipeg News at 6 on television. We've had a lot to think about today. We've been thinking about one man's impact on a community. We've been thinking about housing. Now it's time to serve up some food for thought and have a fresh conversation about food waste. Grocery bills have gone up dramatically over the past few years, but food is still being tossed and wasted at different points along the distribution chain. What are your thoughts on this? And what do you think needs to happen to help reduce wasted food? Give us a call. I know there was somebody calling on line 1 just a moment ago, but our studio director, Corey Funk, was helping a guest into the studio, so please call back. The number's 204-780-0893. Toll free, it's 1-800-268-5483. We've got a couple of really interesting guests with us today. The John Howard Society in Brandon opened a food rescue grocery store a couple of years ago. It has been so successful, it had to expand to a larger space earlier this year. Ted DeZogan chairs the John Howard Society in Brandon. He joins us now by Zoom. Hi, Ted. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here.
The food rescue store has seen a lot of success and also some challenges. We're going to get to the latest challenge you're facing in just a moment, but first I want to introduce Jennifer McCrae. Jennifer is the Public Engagement and Outreach Associate at Climate Change Connection, and she joins us here in studio. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Janet.
You'd like to see the food rescue store model expand into Winnipeg. Why is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Here in Winnipeg, we have just enormous potential, I think, to scale up what Brandon's been doing and tackle both two important issues, hunger and climate change, by diverting food away from landfills and rescuing this food and getting it to those in need. We actually are able to really make a dent in greenhouse gas emissions that result when food is thrown out in the landfill and creates methane, which is 25 times more potent at warming our atmosphere than carbon dioxide. So this is food waste is a huge climate change issue. And we have a great opportunity here in Winnipeg to do something about it by adopting this Brandon model.
Okay, let's get to Ted now. Tell us how this Brandon model of yours works.
Well, thank you very much, Janet. Our model is based upon the concept that individuals' needs vary, and that we need to meet people where they are. So we are not anti-food bank or anti-soup kitchen. Very much support the local food banks and soup kitchens. But both of those models are set up to help people who have no opportunity to purchase anything and need something right now. The food rescue grocery store targets another segment of people who sometimes have need. At the store, the food we rescue is generally priced at 25% of the retail cost. We are a not-for-profit with charitable status that is fully audited. Our books are open to you. I think this is the sort of program that should be run through a not-for-profit. But people come in and they shop like anywhere else, and they make choices. When we started this project, we said if we were helping 600 families a month, we would call it a success. Currently, we're servicing 600 families a week. The families who come to our store, we have different products each week. They average spend between $11.35 and $12.65, and they usually walk out for that with 2 full bags of groceries. It is not meant to supplant your standard grocery stores. This is just giving people the opportunity to save a couple dollars, get something they wouldn't otherwise have, and then just redirect the rest of their grocery budget in the way they normally would. We are not competition for a grocery store.
Have you been faced with that? Some of the grocery stores saying, you're competing with us?
Generally not, because we don't also target grocery stores for donations. In Canada, there are 3 streams that I'm aware of. And I should just make this clear, just for the record. I'm a volunteer and this is my hobby. So I sometimes have to remind people that this is not my career choice. I didn't, the last 4 years I've been doing food rescue like some people play golf. But I do have a history of industrializing my hobbies and taking them very seriously. So the 3 food distribution networks that I'm aware of in Canada are the grocery chains, the grocery stores, the restaurant supply chain, and then the export supply chain. Canada is a net exporter of food to the rest of the world. Our current models, and even in the news, quite frankly, we always hear about grocery store, grocery store, grocery store. The food waste, although it does exist in all 3, my personal belief is the food waste in the export and restaurant supply chains is greater than that which is available in the grocery store supply chain. And that's generally where we target. When we rescue, it will be up to 26 pallets of food, and a pallet usually a ton, 1,000 kilograms. That's the kind of thing we're going after. Not the grocery stores are pretty efficient. I got to tell you, my experience, they have about 40 to 100 pounds of waste a day. And that is real waste, but that's not where the real food is. Yesterday, for instance, we had a donation of 16 pallets of fresh tomatoes on the vine. That's not the sort of thing you find at one grocery store.
Wow. And that again came from, forgive me, because the Zoom, of course, hiccuped just as you were saying where you're targeting. It's restaurants and exports?
And the export supply chain, yes. Those supply chains tend to travel around Canada by the semi-load. So that's 26 pallets of food at a time. If a mistake is made, say that a double order is placed, or some other hiccup happens in the supply chain, we're not talking about something you could fit in the back of your car. We're talking about 20 food at a time become and must be rescued immediately.
Thank you so much, Ted. We've got some calls here. One comment we're coming in from YouTube. Please comment on YouTube. Remember, you can watch us anytime. You can go back and watch this again, actually, when the show is over, by going to YouTube, CBC Manitoba, and just look for Radio Noon there. You can even share it with friends. Terry says Brandon is doing a good job reducing food waste. Now let's go to Joanne. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for calling Radio Noon.
Hey, Janet. How are you today?
I'm great. What do you do to reduce food waste?
Well, since there's just my husband and I at home now, I will go out and pick up a chicken from Costco, let's say, because, it's much cheaper there. We'll have our one meal, and then I'll take it and I'll make a second meal out of it, or I'll make myself, salad, and then I take the bones from there and I'll make a broth. So I'm just getting that food to go an extra mile for us.
That sounds like something you were taught to do. That was modeled behavior, wasn't it?
Well, it's making the dollar stretch these days as well. It's not so much that, but it's a very helpful thing to do. And as far as the waste goes, I mean, if you got a piece of rotten fruit in the fruit bowl, you go and you don't just toss the whole thing away. I mean, I'll cut it away and we compost as well. So I'll put that little bit into the compost container, and then you eat the rest of the apple. I mean, it's about just, you look at the date on the sour cream container, and this is something that a lot of people don't quite get. So even though it says best before, let's say May the 1st, you know what? That sour cream is good for like a month after the fact. I think there's so much of this, marketing that people have got, transfixed in their brain that even though it's, May the 1st, oh my gosh, we can't eat this, it's not good. Stuff like that lasts forever, even dry foods, that it's got to be good for about a year after. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on air, but I think that's what happens.
Thank you so much for calling in, Joanne. Jennifer, you were laughing at a couple of things in recognition and agreement with Joanne when she was saying things like the dates can be misleading.
Absolutely. Those dates are there for marketing, as the caller suggested. Those are dates for when the store needs to sell that product. It doesn't necessarily reflect a best before edible date. So always best, I think, to check the product yourself, have a look, have a smell. You definitely, don't need to throw that product out necessarily, so long as it's been properly refrigerated and kept in a good way. So
Mike has called in as well. Hi, Mike. You're calling in from Brandon.
Yes, you bet, Janet. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this stuff today, and thank you to your guests. My wife and I, we live in a rural setting, and we have a large garden, and so we kind of do all the old school things when it comes to food rescuing ourselves. Like we share from our garden, and when there's excess, we make sure that we share, particularly with Samaritan House in Brandon. It's an agency that's near and dear to our hearts historically, because there was a time in our lives when we required, didn't want to, because we wanted to be self-sufficient, but we look back and they helped us through a bit of a stretch, and so we're big fans of them and Helping Hands, some of the rural food banks in our area, because Brandon's a hub for a lot of other places that don't get the chance to see some of these, for lack of a better term, windfall opportunities to distribute food to their clientele, for lack of a better word. And so we've become fans of the food rescue, because it's kind of a synergy where they're bringing food through their facilities on what has been a sustainable basis to Westman, where they can share with all the other agencies in the area on an as-needed and opportunity basis. I mean, they distribute potato goods. They've had windfall of eggs. Bread has been, until recently, a regular part of their opportunity to distribute. And then they also have the storefront in the downtown center that has just recently expanded, where people can buy stuff on a cost recovery basis or small donation basis. And it keeps, I think last time I checked, they're close to 1 million pounds. Would that be correct, Mr. Zogan? Close to 1 million pounds that's avoided going into landfills, that's been able to be used. And some people might not think this is a real good thing on our end. One other thing we do is we try and put as little food waste in our garbage. We do compost, but we have pets that like treats, and so things like it's not a wise thing to pour say bacon fat or the trimmings off of a roast, the drippings down the sink. It's not good for sewage systems. We make sure that goes on a sparingly basis to our dogs and cats. And so it's we try and not. What's the old saying, that when you're going to butcher a pig, use everything but the squeal. And so that's what we kind of try and do with all of it.
Mike, thanks so much for calling in today. Really appreciate your input. Let's talk about what's happening, Ted, with the food rescue grocery store. Mike made reference to, until recently, you could get bread there, for example. You've had a bit of, you've hit a bit of a snag. Tell us about the snag.
Well, we have, but before we even do that, I just wanted to back up and say that part of our model has always been that 40% of what we rescue, we share with the food banks and soup kitchens in the area. We are not here to compete with, but here to lift up the community. That goes on, and that's been a long-term relationship. So I'm appreciating that Mike knows about that. So what happened is most of the existing infrastructure in Canada for food security is based upon the food bank model. And there are national organizations, multiple ones, that help to coordinate that. But philosophically, they have all now adopted the belief that all food that is donated must be handed out for free. They do not philosophically believe in our model, which is a social enterprise model based on cost recovery, where people pay something. And that has led us to not be welcome in some of those organizations right now. The good news is that our donors have personal relationships with us, so I'm not particularly afraid, but it's a lot of work to go back and
find a new
those
donor.
Relationships.
There's another thing. I mean,
Well,
theoretically,
not necessarily.
Theoretically, it
Yeah.
sounds fantastic to give food away. Absolutely. Sounds lovely. But is there a different reality when you're in a rural area than if you're in a giant city? in terms of transportation costs, and perhaps, you do try to share in Westman as well. So you're going from Brandon to other communities, correct?
Yep.
You've got some expenses.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So there's two things with that. One, if food banks work at all, they work in densely populated areas where you can have trucks and warehouses and serve a whole bunch of people. But they don't work at all in rural Canada because our cost to transport are much higher. We don't have the dense populations. We can't have giant warehouses and fleets of trucks. So if rural Canada is not going to be left behind, then at the very least, urban Canada has to allow, or large city Canada has to allow for other models that work in less densely populated areas. But the other thing we found, and this was an eye opener for me, by the way, free is a barrier for a significant number of people to accept help. Pride sometimes gets in the way of us accepting help when a little bit of help would have gone a long way. And instead we fall further and we get to a point where it takes an awful lot of help to get back up. And one of the things that our model does is avoid that, or give people the opportunity to participate at the level that they want.
Well, that's an interesting point, that some people just are, no, I can afford to pay a bit and I want to.
Well,
Yeah.
everyone pats themselves on the back for a great deal.
Exactly. Like
So that's
there
very
are
interesting.
many people, seniors as well, who would like to benefit from being able to shop at a store that is for everyone, and can't see themselves ever. Maybe there are a lot of people out there that don't see themselves ever setting foot in a food bank yet. Here we are rescuing vast amounts of food, and it's preventing waste from hitting the landfill, and they're getting a good deal. And why wouldn't they want to take advantage of that? And they don't need to feel, at all awkward about it. They're doing a great thing, and it's a great opportunity to take advantage, of some really good deals. So
We hear from, that's Jennifer McCrae just chipping in there. She believes that Winnipeg should have a food rescue grocery store and has been working to get one established. We've got another caller coming in. Hi there. Thanks for calling Radio Noon.
Hi there.
Hi, Ross. How are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for taking my call.
What would you like to contribute?
I wanted to contribute the aspect that the project here, we see that it builds community as well, right? Lots of people want to get involved in this. They see the good. They see the food not going to the dump. They see people getting extra food on their plates. And it's just a good feeling thing. Like, when I look at this, I don't see a downside to any of it. And it's unfortunate that the people who have the food are more than willing to put it in the dump rather than see the good that it can do.
Well, hopefully they'll find a place they can put it other than the dump. Ross, thanks so much for calling. I just want to play a bit of tape that we got earlier today from a senior, because you were mentioning that seniors sometimes are looking for deals and they'd love to go to a place where they could have cheaper food. We got a call from Julie, who's a senior, and she'd like to see more done to help keep food costs down.
I've had dietitians tell me, buy a bag of potatoes or a bag of onions rather than individual onions, because individuals cost more. But I don't use that much. I have a small cupboard space, and it doesn't. If it's going to be thrown out and rot, and doesn't pay. Also, same thing with heads of lettuce and that. I don't to make salads. I just buy the salad pre-made. But then there's tax on it, and there's containers, and I would like to see grocers and that, and government more receptive to seniors who live alone because their spouses died or they never married. They built this province and gave a better life to everybody else. I'd like to see special prices for seniors. They should have no tax on their salad, and also for seniors, if they're buying 2 potatoes, they should be able to get it at reduced price. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Julie, for calling Radio Noon. Now, Jennifer McCrae, what needs to happen for the model that we see at Brandon's food rescue grocery store to expand in the rest of the province?
Well, we're looking for support from both from individuals as well as companies or anyone really. We're Climate Change Connection is a nonprofit charitable organization that's been around since for about 20 years now, and the bulk of our focus has been on education and policy solutions, providing Manitobans with the facts and solutions they need to be able to make better decisions about how to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And so, again, food waste is a major climate change issue. Globally, the United Nations has put it front and center. It is number 12 on its goals on the UN's goals to bring about more sustainable systems and to reduce food waste by half by 2030. So this is a huge issue. I mean, if food waste were a country, it would be in terms of emissions, it would be right behind the U.S. and China in terms of the emissions that result from food waste. So we want to see a difference made in Winnipeg, and this is low cost, this is scalable. The Brandon Food Rescue Store has adopted 3 shipping containers that are refrigerated that help store the food safely and securely in a refrigerated or frozen state, which extends the shelf life, which allows them to have some really great massive amounts of surplus food rescued and put out for individuals to take advantage of rather than ending up in the landfill. And in Manitoba, our second largest single source of emissions is coming from our landfills. So this is an issue we can tackle very simply with a few shipping containers and a space for the store. So that's all we need.
Jennifer McRae, thank you for that impassioned speech and for joining us today. If you've got a message you want to get to Jennifer, you can call me 204-788-3797. I'll pass it along. Ted Zogan, thank you so much for joining us today. And keep us posted on what's happening with the Rescue Food Store.
I'd be happy to do that. Just so you do know, there is a resolution on the private members resolution on the floor of your legislature right now, of our legislature. Mike Morosi, APLA, brought to the floor, and this had the support of all 3 parties. I have Wayne Balkin, Brandon's PC MLA from the East. He rose on the floor to support it. The Liberals also did. We have the political will. It's time for us to get something done. And this resolution is meant to start a work group to just discuss, not legislate, discuss. Let's support it. Let's tell every party that this is important to everyone, and we want to see them work together to deliver a solution for the province. Thank you.
Ted Zogan, thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer McRae. Faith Fundal joins us now with 1 minute left in the program. What's coming up on Up to Speed?
Hello, Janet. A Winnipeg nonprofit is promising to get you up and dancing. We're going to hear the unique way a Winnipegger is paying tribute to his parents and their contributions to Winnipeg's music scene, and you've already started, so there you go.
It's really easy to get me up and dancing. And in fact, any second now, Dylan Longhurst is going to play the music, and I will start to groove. That's our song. Thank you so much, Faith Fundal. Faith hosts Up to Speed, which airs 3 to 6 here on CBC Radio 1. Thank you, Dylan Longhurst. Thank you, Corey Funk. Thank you, Travis Peterson, for putting us up on YouTube. Josh Crabb was our newsreader. Riley Leitchuk, of course, covers weather. Thank you, Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson, for your assistance today and your guidance with this. Please remember you can call us anytime, 204-788-3797. This is Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. Up next, Unreserved. Chat with you tomorrow.